If you have been looking for a way to encourage someone in the Lord during the new year, you might want to write them a letter. That seemed to work oftentimes in the New Testament days anyway. Good morning, I'm Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisti, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. We, of course, read from 21 different letters or epistles in the New Testament that are not only written as an encouragement to the church, but also a great source of doctrine for them to look back on later on. As Paul wrote back to churches, they were being persecuted. Some of them were struggling with false teachers that had come in to stir up trouble and dissension among them. And these recipients of such letters were encouraged and perhaps even excited to go on in serving the Lord. This morning, I want to mention one such letter that was recorded for us in Acts chapter 15. This letter is from the church leaders in Jerusalem. They had found fault with some of the Gentile converts from Paul's ministry. Some had even imposed some rules and guidelines for these new Gentile converts. But after the Jerusalem council had met and heard from such men as Paul and Barnabas, they sent this letter in Acts chapter 15 to remove the circumcision burden and to accept them into the New Testament church as brothers and sisters. The letter came this way in verse 31. So when they were sent off, they came to Antioch, and when they had gathered the multitude together, they delivered the letter. And when they had read it, they rejoiced over its encouragement. Now, first of all, let's see the difficulty of sending such a letter to those in Antioch. In the Jerusalem council, there was a great dispute that had been going on about these Gentile converts, about accepting them by their testimony of faith. Some believers, especially some former Pharisees who had come to believe, were pretty adamant about these Gentile believers following such laws as circumcision and things that the Jewish people had always followed. After hearing Peter's testimony about preaching to Cornelius, remember that Roman centurion? Some changed their attitude. And after hearing about Paul and Barnabas and the miracles that they had seen in Antioch among the people there, they were swayed to change their mind. So they determined to write a letter accepting these Gentiles and giving them some basic admonitions about such things as sexual immorality and such. Can you imagine how excited the church at Antioch was to receive this letter, to hear from them that they were approving them? Now, it was a short letter, but it meant so much to these concerned believers. You know, sometimes we could write even the shortest of notes to another believer that would encourage them and maybe even spur them on to greater commitment to Christ. During these winter months, especially whenever some people really don't even get out at all, they might really enjoy a letter or just a note of encouragement. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 25 says, "As cold waters for a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country." When you're considering a way to encourage someone, to uplift them, or exhort someone even during these days, sit down for a moment and write them a cheerful note to lift their spirits. It may not only help them, it might help you too.